What's up, everybody? This is Enlightened Masculinity Podcast, special episode time. I'm your host, Yogi Chris, PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga, captain of IMC Nation, and director of global operations from IMC Base One here in San Jose, California, where I live with the legend, the living legend, Arash Sapar-Dibazar, the man who's hacked the genetic code between men and women. So you may see some promoters that have lots of girls, but they're not sleeping with them. You may see some playboys that have lots of girls, but they're paying them, and those bitches are hoes. You may see some celebrities, some rappers or whatever that, have lots of, but those are also hoes, and they're just like, groupies or whatever, not loyal, not clean. And they probably sleep with all of their other posse and everything. I don't know those guys. But what Arash is doing, I can tell you, as coming closer and closer and closer to the, the source of the information, it just keeps getting more real, more true. It's like, it's almost like before we had the microscope and we were just guessing on like what germs are and what bacteria are and cells are. And then we started to zoom in and we could see like, oh, there's like a living cell here that's like moving around. And then we zoom in more and there's like, oh, there's parts inside of the cell. This is all making more sense. And then we zoom in more and there's like chemistry, atoms and molecules interacting. And then we zoom in more and it's like, oh, there's like an electromagnetic force. And it's like, you keep zooming in, it just keeps making more sense. The universe is not making sense. You just keep zooming in and it's going to make more and more sense. The physics or whatever we call it, the quantum physics and whatever we call it. And that's what this is. You're zooming in and it's not mystical. It's not magic. Seems like that when you're way zoomed out and you're like, man, I don't understand how bacteria, or I don't understand how the body gets sick. And you start making up superstitions about, why this or why that, but there's cause and effect. And as you zoom in on what's going on here, as I have been for 6 years, just keep zooming in on it. It just makes more and more sense. And the physics, just get laid out for you. And you stop being so superstitious about not just relationships, because that just is like the weak link for humanity, really. All people. Like some guys, they'll claim they get girls, but they still get destroyed by women. They'll still marry the woman or have a kid with her. And then she leverages that against him and his business collapses and, or has to give a bunch away. His reputation goes down. He has to play to her whims. If he doesn't do what she wants, then she can say all kinds of stuff that, will ruin his rep in the community or his business. She'll get between him and his friends and the friendship will break. Like I was telling somebody yesterday, I was like, one of the things, if not the thing that really distinguishes the IMC tribe from other groups in general, but definitely men's group. And, men's groups maybe doesn't do justice because it could be any kind of, you may think of like an NFL team or some pro sports team. You might not think of it as a men's group, but there's no women on that team. It's a men's group. You might not think of like the police department as like a men's group. There are women there, but it's mostly men. The military or gangs. There's women in them, but it's the men that make it happen. The military, if you took all the men out, it would be nothing. If you took all the women out, it'd be better, actually. The police is probably the same too. And so those are men's groups, and women get between them. Women will get to liking one guy, make him like her, and then get to liking another guy, and then he'll like her, and then those men will break apart, and then the woman will probably not even be with either of them, choose a third person, and then those guys will never be friends again. All because they were vulnerable in their understanding of themselves and of relationships and women. And so that's like the weak link that'll just make things fall apart, make organizations fall apart, make friendships fall apart, tribes and organizations or whatever. Now, to get good at that, evidently, you must become very good at communication, very, very self-aware of emotions, of your own, mental garbage and whatever from upbringing and whatever. And of course, you got to be succeeding in life. Like you don't need to necessarily be like rich, but you need to be ambitious and achieving things and be taking steps forward. And those are things that women find very attractive. And got to be basically well-rounded. You might be able to shortcut it in the short term by being like pickup artists or finding tricks to convince her of legitimate value, that you legitimately have ambition or you legitimately have success. You can use tricks to, in the short term, convince her of that. And that's literally, go back 100 episodes in Enlightened Masculinity when I was reviewing some of the evolutionary psychology books like The Mating Mind or what was the other one that I did? Evolution of Desire. Those two books I did the reviews on. And I mean, that's like in the scientific world, that's like the main strategy. The man is fooling the woman on how committed he is and how successful he is. The woman is fooling the man on how willing she is to put out, and of course of her beauty. That's why she's shaving her legs and pushing up her tits and wearing makeup and doing her hair. And that's not really what her beauty is. Go out in nature and find her beauty. Like, if you were a natural man out in the bush, you would still find her slightly hairy body, slightly softer body, much more attractive than you, because you're also grooming. But come into culture and society and all the comparisons you have with other women, and she's got to do all these mods to her body, to her appearance, to fool you into thinking that she's really that cartoon of just beauty. And you got to do all these things like, yeah, man, I just did a music video, and we got $1 million deal coming around the corner, and I just met this celebrity. He was calling me, and like, Jesus, you got to say these things. And what AZD has done has really hacked the code underneath that, which is character. So how you respond to life, how your goodness, and how to talk about these things in a way that, because it's how you talk about it. You could have all the ambition and success in the world, but it comes across arrogant, or it comes across as needy or try hard, like you're trying to get her to like you, versus the guy that doesn't even have all those things, but he's not coming across with those attitudes, and she finds that much more appealing. There's something cool and relaxed about him. These are just teachings from AZD. But this is Enlightened Masculinity Podcast, and what I was really going to talk about is what is IMC Nation, because I'm unique. I have this unique position where, like, my full-time job, I don't even like the word job, because it's like, I've had so many jobs in my life. Those were jobs. This is not a job. But is this my purpose? I think I'm on my purpose. I don't think what I'm doing now is my purpose, because the purpose is a path. It's not a destination. It's not like a thing I get to. So I'm like on the path. I'm on my purpose. And, on my purpose is living with AZD, being my role of whatever I do, sales, logistics, podcasting, mentoring apprentices, and the methods and whatever that I did to pull myself out of, or to maybe another word besides pull yourself out of, to reorganize and redesign my life from where I was to where I am now. It's just been a piecemeal, gradual, incremental, step-by-step from, PhD student that just first found Arash, and I was teaching yoga, and just gradually transitioning into more and more of the teachings, less and less of toxic habits, graduating, going full force onto yoga, but still being also full force student. So now, instead of being dipped in 3 worlds where I was like academic, yogi, and Arash, and I was also really heavily into guitar. And I say that because, like, I was very heavily into guitar. Like, it was like on my schedule, practicing scales. I wasn't a professional performer. It was one of those habits that was just like pouring my energy into a dead end, just like pouring it into a black hole. I maybe could have tried to like go pro or do something like that. But at the end of the day, after studying Arash's teachings, I realized I was really trying to get girls with that. Like, that's what I was doing. And I might be able to get some girls with my impressive guitar skills, but then I would lose that girl to a guy that had impressive conversation skills. I would still need conversation skills to keep the girl. The guitar was just like an attraction. And so I put that aside. So I'm out of 4 worlds into 3 worlds. Graduate my PhD, don't pursue engineering as a professional anymore. And now I'm just in 2 worlds, yoga and IMC. Now I still have a tiny pinky toe in yoga, as I teach the Yoga for Sorcerers, Frank White's group, and some of my ninth limb yogis, they're in that group. And, so I stay connected with that. That's my brand. I'm Yogi Chris. And I still have ninth limb yoga. I still have that YouTube channel and everything. But I'm like 95% in this world. And I'm really just holding on to that because I think that that's how Arash would want it also. And, so being fully in this world, when women ask me, let's talk about this, because this is something that you may come across. Guys, it'll be easier to explain because you can start going into everything I just said about dating and whatever, and they'll get it. And if they don't get it, then they got some issues, and that should be a red flag for you. Like if they get so, you should have some patience, because when you give someone a shocking new philosophy that's just like totally out of their reality, like, give them time to like process and assimilate it. They don't gotta like jump into it right away, but they definitely shouldn't be like suppressive on it. They should be curious. They should, they shouldn't have negativity towards you on it. And it'll be easy for a guy to explain it to another guy, like, what do you do in IMC? But to a girl, what are you going to do? How are you going to say it? What are you going to say to a girl about what IMC Nation is? And there are truths that are deeper than we're just learning how to get women or whatever, because that's not what it is. And it really truncates it to something that it isn't. There's a lot of pickup groups and dating groups and whatever that their purpose is to get women. And those teachers and students will soon find that you got to really handle all the areas of your life if you really want to get women at the highest level. They might not have awareness of what is the highest level because they're dealing with their chumpy pickup coaches that, like, maybe they get a girl here or there, but they don't really get the girl. They get her like in the short term. Like, this is a really interesting phrase when you think about getting the girl, because it has so many meanings. Get the girl, like, what do you mean? Like, get her psychologically? You get her emotionally? Do you understand her? Get her? You get her like you get her for yourself? How long do you get her for? Do you get her for life? Do you get her for the night? What is it? You get her number? So it's a very small word to get her, but it has like a lot of different meanings. And this is at the highest level, getting the woman, but the highest value woman, and getting her for life, and getting her in a way that doesn't cut you off to other options, and also doesn't destroy your business, doesn't take away from your business, like it's integrated with your business. This isn't what I would describe to a girl. So I have girls on my Instagram right now that are watching. This isn't what I would say, but like, I'm not hiding anything. Like, if you're on my Instagram, you're going to see that I post a dating and relationship seminar that I'm helping to coach. And if you got a problem with it, then you shouldn't be on my Instagram. And then I'll deal with that. I'll deal with the loss of that potential woman that was in my circle, in my sphere, because she couldn't, I was showing this woman my website, imcbase1.com. And right at the very fucking top is pickup and dating relationship seminar or whatever. And she's like, oh, and I was like, oh yeah. And I scrolled back and I was like, I'm actually coaching at that one. Because what am I going to try to hide it? And if she has a problem with that, then, it's my job to deliver it in a way that she gets it. So it might not be the first thing that you open up to the girl about, like, yeah, this is what I do, dating a relationship, because then she's going to be really leery and hesitant about going on a date with you. You're just manipulating her. Or is she just a case study for you? Are you going to be bragging about it later or whatever? She's concerned about her rep. But if you spend time, her getting to know you, you getting to know her, and you deliver it to her in a way that, yeah, men everywhere, like everything I just said, they're breaking on this subject. And I studied this subject because I also broke on this subject. And I found information that gave me strength and integrity, may help me keep my integrity in relationships. I had such high integrity not in relationships, as a lot of guys do. But that's like saying, I'm really smart when nobody else is, when you're not comparing me to anybody else. I'm really strong when I'm the only person in the gym and nobody is benching more than me. I'm a really good runner when I'm the only one in the race. Like, get in the race. So what is IMC Nation is like what this podcast is. A hella long intro just to get to that. What is IMC Nation? Originally, it was called Integrated Martial Arts Concepts, because Arash was a martial arts teacher. Then as he transitioned out of martial arts, still teaching like mental martial arts, but not like the physical martial arts. And it became obvious sometime around the Messengers event, which was like, it would have been the Philosopher's Stone. So December of 2019. What is that? Like 2.5 years ago. It started transitioning to integrated mental concepts, because there was a lot of philosophy that was being pulled together. Stoicism and existentialism, all the sexual psychology philosophy. The pickup art, you'd be surprised that when you go to like Mystery Method, and pickup is a terminology that's going to, it's kind of like a misnomer. It is a whole philosophy. It is the philosophy of how to approach beautiful women so it doesn't trigger their defense mechanisms from a lifetime of being approached by chumpy guys. It's a philosophy of social dynamics. And that's integrated in this, because you could be the greatest stoic and the greatest scientist on earth, but if you don't know how to relate dynamically with people, then you're just going to die with your information. You need to have but if you just have social dynamics, but you have no like real value or whatever, the thing about social dynamics is it is real value. If you know how to interact with people, that in itself is a skill set that's very valuable to people. It's just very intangible. It's hard to measure its value, because everybody thinks that they know something about communication and social dynamics. And until you meet somebody that's like masterful at it, or you're alongside them, or you try to talk to the same girl, like Arash's new girlfriend, I was talking to that girl. Not like I never got on a date with her. I had her Instagram, every time we went to the club, I was talking with her. She came to the parties, I was talking with her. Like the difference in effect between the effect he had on her versus the effect I had on her, it just reveals the difference, you know? And so we see these differences like, man, it's still got a long way to go. But what is IMC Nation? Because it's not about getting women, it's about masterminding your life. So now the new name is International Mastermind Council. Or I sometimes, like I made a post about Integrated Mastermind Council. It's a council of a lot of men that have a lot of insight and experience in the world that come together and share their experiences. It is headed by the founder. He does most of the talking, but everybody has a chance to contribute. And then there's offshoots of all these guys that have more or less leadership roles. Like I have a leadership role, other guys have leadership roles. They're leading their groups, their Telegram groups, their podcasts. They're in communication with everybody, and everybody's coming up that participates. If you don't participate, then you're not going to come up. That's what I'm saying about Anton Goyen. Like, get involved so that you can, and that's what he's doing. He's here now on my show. So this is a step in the right direction. But you got to come to the mastermind group, which is the Dragon's Lair, as it's called now. And so this is a mastermind council. What do we mastermind? We mastermind the philosophy of life, the art of living. We have in our minds all of our studies, and we bring them together with our experiences, and we're doing really well. We're doing well in a sense. We bring back loyalty, we bring back honor. We've redefined these terms because they've been hijacked by society. We bring back ownership, owning yourself and your experience, owning your own responsibility, your cause and effect in the world. And primarily your cause and effect with women, because there's lots of like meditators and mindfulness people, practitioners, yogis and things that they would say something similar about cause and effect and taking responsibility for their karma and whatever. And yet they're so ignorant of sexual psychology. So they don't realize how much of their movement and activity in the world is really trying to get the right mate, get the mate of their choice, to seduce their current mate, to, you know, enhance their options with that. They're timid and they shy away from that. And, you know, that's where their weakness is. So when you take ownership of your responsibilities, then you'll take ownership for why she isn't liking you, the girl that you want to like. You'll take ownership of why you all broke up. It wasn't just her fault. Like I was telling someone yesterday, she was like, why, what did she say? How many girlfriends have you had or something? I was like, I've been in love 5 or 5.5 times or something. And she was like, wow, that's a lot. You've been very fortunate in this or that. And I tell her, well, yeah, I mean, it was mostly me why that happened. I mean, like, if you have a good conversation with me, chances are, and I'm talking to her, so it might not apply to all of you guys, but chances are it's because I'm bringing good conversation. I'm a great listener. I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm communicating on that. And because unless you're having good conversations with every single person you're talking to, then it's not you. I'm having great conversations with everybody I'm talking to because it's me. I'm bringing that. And if you're having a great conversation with me, I mean, you're inspiring me, but I mean, how much of this great conversation is like you're thinking of great ideas to talk about and you have all these, you know, philosophies that are so fascinating and you're so fantastic in your talk? No, you're inspiring me, you're pulling out greatness in me, and that's the role here. That's the dynamic. I bring the wisdom and the higher intelligence, and you bring this grounded inspiration that's just like, I'm a slave to my lust for you. Now I'll contain it, and I'll channel it and I'll let it bring out the best in me without going too heavy and without being too like afraid to give, because I don't want to fall in love. Like some guys, it's pathetic. They're like, I don't want to fall in love again. I want to fully heal before I get another relationship. That's not the thing to do. That's feminine. That's a very feminine perspective on what to do with relationships. And another thing that, okay, so on this path, what you'll find is that I don't like saying levels because it makes it seem like it's very, term would be like discrete, or discrete has multiple meanings. Discrete can mean like hidden, but it also means like defined, well-defined, like a discrete edge or a discrete or a clear boundary. Like levels makes it sound like there's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3, there's level 4. No, it's more like a gradient. Like it could be 1.12, be 1.97, it could be level anything in between. So there's a scale here, there's levels to this thing. And one level that was discovered around August of 2020 is when the men that were in this movement, that were practicing the philosophy, practicing their communication, relationship dynamics, they moved in together and they started living together. And now a new level opened up where it's like taking ownership of your responsibility, just the range for that level of responsibility just skyrocketed. Like the ceiling went way up, and now we all got to come up with our responsibility, because you're living with guys that are also on this path. You can get away with it living with other kind of guys that aren't on this path. But if you're on this path with guys that really value communication, they're listening for the tonalities in your words, they're hearing which words are your, you have extra emotion behind, where you have buttons, little bruises in your consciousness where you're talking about that thing and it's too sensitive. Like, I don't even want to mention it, but I could probably talk on things that would press some of your buttons because of that. And so you just start to really notice where the guy dims, where he gets dark, where he might get sad or depressed, where he might turn antisocial. And that's okay for some time, but to really be strong as a unit, you need everybody to be responsible for their emotional state in that time and to get themselves out of that emotional state. And you can help, but you can't take responsibility for the other person's feelings. They can't be a liability to you. That's taken away from your life. So as you're living with guys, you need guys that take responsibility for their own condition, their emotional condition, and their financial condition. Like they can't be taxing on you where they can't pay rent. You got to loan them money. Like that would be, even if they're great at social dynamics, that's going to pull from your energy. It's going to make you worse. So what happened is, as we moved in together, we became much, much more aware of this thing called ethics, which has to do with your philosophy of personal survival, like how you're going to do well in life. That's going to support you, your family, your group or tribe, which could be the household, it could be the whole IMC Nation, humanity, life forms, and everything. It goes on and on, but it starts with yourself. You exist first. If you're sacrificing yourself to help your family, well, that's only going to go so long until you're dead, and then your family will, and then what? If you're sacrificing yourself to help a group or help the nation or help humanity or help wildlife or whatever, well, that's great. I'm sure wildlife appreciates it, although they don't have the consciousness to appreciate it, but you're losing yourself in something outside of yourself. And so this IMC Nation is this philosophy that includes now the philosophy of how to live together as men. Very important. It includes tribalism, evolutionary psychology, because what was discovered, as we are living social scientists, this is a living philosophy that's organic and changing. It's not like we're reading, some old text that doesn't change anymore, that it was written down a long time ago and like probably out of context now. There are some scientific truths that persist, but the wording, the language, and the context is important. And so in modern day, in the context of how to live with other men, you're going to see all the things I said in the beginning of the podcast. Women will get between you. There'll be financial irresponsibility. There'll be emotional irresponsibility. And the unit will break apart because of out ethics. Now I'm able to go out, like last night, and I was observing other guys in the environment, and I might be projecting onto them, but what I'm noticing, or what I think what I'm interpreting, is that guy could not live with another. That guy could not live with another guy. Those guys could not live together. I can just tell he's too jittery. He's inconsiderate. He's not aware of who's around him. That guy's smelly. That guy's not clean. Like those guys wouldn't make it together. They can hang out with each other for an hour or 2 hours, whatever, go drink. They could have an overnight bender. They could spend the night or whatever. They could maybe take a trip to Vegas, but when they get back, they're not going to want to see each other anymore, at least for some time. They'll need to take a break. Like I don't take a break from seeing my housemates. We don't take breaks from each other. Like we are moving as a unit, like a swim team or a school of dolphins or a flock of seagulls or something, like a pack of wolves. We move as a unit. Wolf doesn't need to take a break. Like I'm a little upset about what you said, or I'm a little upset because Jenny didn't call me back last night. So I'm gonna go over here and be a lone wolf for a little while until, or I got a date coming tonight, so I'm gonna go be a lone wolf tonight. You guys move happen. That's normie philosophy that got somehow infiltrated this group philosophy. But that's what we all have. As we level up, we start to see more and more of our conditioning because we all come from that ocean of normalism, of normalcy, whatever the word is. And 6 or 7 years ago, when I came in contact with this information, it resonated with me, some deep truths that were probably either deep in my subconscious or even under my consciousness. It's like genetic, like it aligns things. It made things make sense. And when it made sense, I got rid of chaotic thoughts. It cleared the way. It made my line straight. So it's like if you go to some old cities and their roads are real windy, it's hard to drive fast and get somewhere fast. By the bird's eye view, it might be a mile, but by roadway, it's like 6 miles. You got to do all these circuitous roads like in Europe or whatever. But then you come to a well laid out, well thought out city that was planned as a city. It's got all these straight lines, and maybe that's boring for you, but man, is it efficient. The structure of it's very efficient in the case of emergencies or fires or natural disaster or anything. Like that's a much safer city, actually, to be able to move like that. You can see very far. You see danger coming. That's what it's like when you have the philosophy of, all the philosophy that we learn in IMC, of sex psychology, of Stoicism, taking responsibility for what's in your control versus what's not in control, of how to communicate in a household with other men so that things move efficiently versus hiding things and then things move less efficiently as you move forward. As you have more and more eyes on you, you'll take more and more responsibility for your actions, or you'll become more and more split, where you're spending a lot of effort to hide aspects of you, to hide activities that you do, to hide things that you did that you're not proud of. You don't want people to find out about them. And that weakens you because it takes effort and energy to hold on to a lie, to remember that counter reality. So the more you can integrate your life, the stronger, the more your power can flow. And living with people makes you more accountable. But if they're not accountable, if they're not accountable to you, they're not going to hold you accountable to them. Everybody can still get by hiding from each other and living as lone wolves, even as a group. Then you start to live with some girls and guys. That's a whole different thing. If you're living with a girl, like, man, it's just going to soften you up. And man, like you're going to be walking on tiptoes sometimes when she's on her period or when she's triggered by things. And if you're like sleeping with that girl, or that's like you're in a relationship with her, that's just going to deteriorate like your mentality over time. We see that guys that live with girls. It's just so observable, just to be obvious. It's funny, those words are similar. Observable, obvious. Okay. And now if you're living with guys and they're on this path, it still becomes observable. As you have more and more eyes on you, let's say you live with 5 or 6 guys, it's hard to hide. And you're just going to have to come clean. And when you come clean, there's going to be like ego involved. In general, nobody wants to be wrong. It's like nobody, guys, girls, kids, old people, like nobody wants to be wrong. They don't like being invalidated. A lot of people like being right, and they will adjust themselves to be more right as they see a better option. At least we would hope so. If they see it better and it's better for them, they'll just naturally move towards what's better for them because it means better survival for them. But they don't like being made wrong in the process. They don't like that correction or to make someone wrong so that they do it right. That's a very delicate process to do that. And that's why it often requires like a teacher-student role to put on that hat. That's why when you show up to class, it's easier to correct someone versus outside of class. They're not as easily corrected. They show up ready to change versus outside, they're ready to continue being right. They want to win at life and they want to believe that they're right. So the philosophy of how to live with men is very strong because 2 or more men living together is a much stronger and protective unit than one man living by himself or living with people that aren't in agreement with him about how he lives and his philosophies of life. And this is very important because if the society is going to change, if we just look out at society, see masks still, we see gas prices, we see communist socialism. So, if you do well, but then your neighbor isn't doing well, then you should probably just give to that person that's not doing well. It's not doing the right things. And so it rewards the lazy for being lazy. And it takes away from the people that work hard and earn for having work ethic and earning. And like the society is, I don't know if I'd say it's going to shit, but especially, and then when we look at men and women and children and the media and how the media is manipulating. I just saw like the video for the Navy training that was talking about pronouns and being inclusive with pronouns. How about you just remove women and then it's inclusive? I doubt you're going to have too many gay men or transgender men if you just remove women from the military. Like they're just not going to be there. They're not going to want to. Why do they want to in the first place anyway? Like it's catering to the minority at the expense of the majority. But it's not like anybody's being forced to be in the military. You could go get another job. You could go work security or be a police officer or do anything else that you get to hold a gun and do that if that's really what you want to do. And so we see all this extra effort being put into forcing people to get an agreement on some philosophies that are demonstrable how they weaken the family unit and weaken society. Like, for example, thinking men and women are equal is going to make men less protective of women. If a man has in his ideas that she's equal to me, then he's not going to think she needs my protection. How could she need my protection if we're equal? Maybe like me and my brother, we have each other's back, but he doesn't need my protection. We just have each other's back. So you could think, well, men and women, we have each other's back until danger shows up. And then you see that she doesn't have your back. She's not capable of having your back like that. And if she is, I mean, you're dealing with like a really, really rare kind of woman. And I wonder how attractive she is really. So, which is important to you. Now, it might be hard for a man to admit that, and it might be hard for a woman to swallow that pill that her beauty is essential. But if you want his protection, then you're going to need to attract that protection. It's not going to be you convince him to protect you, because protecting you means he's putting his body and his life between you and danger. And it's not going to be because you're such a fountain of philosophy that he's going to do that for you. We do that for our teachers. I would do that for my teacher and stand in front of a bullet for him. But there's something else going on there. And I've never seen that dynamic with a man and a woman. He'll protect her, but then when he's dead, she'll move on to another man. And she used him for that bodyguard. He'll protect her and the child, and that's what he's designed to do. He's designed to protect the child. He's designed to protect the mother of his child or the potential mother of his child. But really, once she's pregnant, then his protection instincts go way up. And once the child is born, Jesus, now it's like, now he's protector, and he'll sacrifice his tribe, he'll sacrifice his job, he'll do whatever it takes to protect that. And when that's not there, all of that energy that would be in his strength and protectiveness, it gets funneled into his business or his purpose. If he doesn't have a business and purpose, that's when he's going to get into like drugs and toxic things, because he's got all this energy, this masculine energy that's not being channeled into something productive that helps him, his family, his tribe, and the mankind in general. This is the philosophy of ethics. Another philosophy that's integrated. Stoicism, you got ethics. I mean, here it is. To ethics. Philosophy. Science of the mind and how communication and emotions interplay and how we have these impulses to survive that get compromised by bad ideas, bad philosophies that take away from our own personal survival or group survival or family survival. And that's out ethics, when it takes away from the survival. But you need a high altitude and a long range perspective of survival to really see the consequences of your actions. So like if you leave your pack to go on a date and don't tell anybody, and then you come back to your pack and act like nothing happened, it might not be obvious at first glance how that's out ethics or anti-survival until you see, well, if the tribe needed you for something, or if you needed the tribe for something and then they didn't know where you were. And so in that long perspective or big, broad perspective of situations that could possibly happen, it's like, oh, I could see how that took away from our potential. And so that took away from our survival. It also adds a little bit of hiding with each other. So you start thinking, well, what other things are being hidden? And the consciousness gets wrapped up in, it's like if the girl ever lies to you or if the guy ever lies to you, it's hard to trust him again. You start thinking, well, if it was so easy for you to lie that one time, what else are you lying about? There's probably some other things too. And there may not be, but that it taxes your mind. So the person is left thinking all these thoughts that wouldn't need to be thought at all if it was just clearly said like, hey guys, I'm going to go on this date from 9 to 11 and I'll be back at 11 or whatever. And everybody's like, okay. And they acknowledge and boom. Now everybody's still moving as a pack, even though they're geographically separated, they're mentally still moving as a tribe. And that's what IMC is a tribe of people that we don't walk around in the forest like a tribe moving together on a hunt. We're in the mental landscape. We're all really tightly connected, more tightly than the guy next to you. Like the Son of Babylon's guest, you may not realize that Son of Babylon is maybe more tightly connected to all of us than he is with you right there next to him. Maybe not, maybe so, but it's amazing to think that through philosophy, his mind has blended with this global philosophy movement called International Mastermind Council Nation. It's a nation of international mastermind. And so, where do I go with this? What is IMC Nation? It's a movement of men and women that have taken on, and I just say women because it's really, there's not many women in it. There's Arash's girlfriends. There's, whatever women are interacting with high-level leaders, and there's women that train with us or whatever, but women come and go. They don't really demonstrate loyalty in the same way that a man demonstrates loyalty. And when she does, that's a keeper. That's a keeper, And for men, that's a keeper too, but it's like expected of men. Men will not be allowed back in as easily as a woman would be. Because it's a weakness that hurts all of society. That man needs to learn his lesson. Like we're walking down the street and I say to the girl, like, it's just, I have this this button in me that I just really, really resent when a man and a woman are walking together and she's walking in front of him. I just really resent that. Like I have a big problem with that. And she's looking at me like why? Why do you have such a problem with that? And it's like, and she didn't say that, but I could tell that's what she's thinking. So I say, and this is why I have a problem with that, because it's unnatural and it's teaching everybody that's observing that's okay. And it's not okay because the woman is going to give birth. He's not going to give birth. The woman might get pregnant. The woman's going to have a baby and she's going to learn to be walking in front. And that's not natural for a pregnant woman to be walking in front. What if you turn the corner and bump into something or there's any danger or, we might not be in the forest anymore. So there might not be a jaguar or a predator right there, but the danger is in front of you as you're walking forward like that. And the man is designed to be the protector. And so it's a not motherly quality to be walking in front, but people are becoming accustomed to that because the man is afraid to step in front or doesn't know how to lead. And so down society goes, generation after generation, men forgetting how to lead. And when the man is not protecting the woman and he feels less about himself, because you can just try it yourself, just walk with your girl, let her walk in front, walk behind her, you're gonna start feeling less about yourself. Walk in front of her, you're gonna start feeling more about yourself, like, yeah, and as you feel stronger about yourself, she is more safe. She's less safe with the man that feels less strong about himself. She's more safe with the man when he feels more strong about himself. The child or the unborn child is more safe the stronger the man is. If he feels less about himself, the child is less safe. Those children will grow up and be running society when I'm old and needing them to run society. Now, those children were less protected. That means they were probably more taken advantage of. And they had wrong role models for how men and women interact. So they're going to do it even worse when they grow up. And then society goes downhill. So I take it personally when a man isn't leading his woman, because that spells out a really a worse future for me as I get older. So it's my responsibility to call that out, to coach that, to point it out, to have a problem with it, basically. And I'm not going to take away from my life to have a problem with it. I'll take away from my life to explain it to her so she gets it, and then it'll be a ripple effect. It'll trickle. And as I come up in my fame and power and everything, and people are listening, then I can spread the message more. And that will happen naturally as my ethics come in, as everything gets aligned, and the philosophy fits for people. I don't need to force it. I don't need to go do some huge internet marketing campaign so I have lots of followers. If my philosophy didn't earn that, I will lose those followers. And then I'll have to find more followers. And you could play that game, but then you end up spending your time becoming a marketing master instead of spending your time being a philosophy master. Because why? Because you wanted the money sooner. So you end up, it was chasing money instead of chasing truth. So are you a philosopher or are you a fucking whatever the love of money is? Philosophy meaning love of wisdom. What is the love of money? I don't know, a capitalizer? I don't know. So this is integrated or International Mindset Council. It's a movement of men and women that take ownership of their karma, their relationships, their mindset, and their ethics. for the betterment of themselves and humanity in the world at large. And that's the basic of it. It's a movement of men and women that take ownership of their ethics, their karma, their responsibility in life, their relationships, not just like intimate relationships, but relationship with parents. Gotta heal that shit. Relationship with exes. Gotta heal that shit. Can't be carrying so much resentment. You heal it in yourself. You don't gotta interact with the person. You just heal it in yourself. How do you heal it in yourself? By not withholding it, not being embarrassed about it. How can you find understanding in it? Instead of just, and there's a difference between understanding and rationalizing. You could talk your way out of a wet paper, you could talk your way out of a paper bag or whatever, just saying a bunch of words. But does it make sense to somebody else? Does it make sense to a group of people? Are those people intelligent? Does it make sense to them? It's important because that's what a mastermind is, versus you're just talking in your own head about stuff. You can make it make sense. Everybody makes sense to themselves. The psycho down the street makes sense to himself. The tribe is what's going to reveal the truth of what's going on. And now you got to choose your tribe, because you could be in the LGBTQ tribe, you could be in Black Lives Matters, you could be in the Democratic Party. I don't know. You could be in whatever tribe. You could be in Feminist Anonymous. I don't know. And in that tribe, it might not make sense. But then now we got to look at the external and the results. How happy are their relationships? How do they make their money? What's their cleanliness and their grooming and their aesthetic? This is like a real thing, aesthetic. Like the beauty of their appearance, the beauty of their smells, the beauty of the sound of their voice, the beauty of their movement. How do they treat animals? How do they treat their family? Are you proud of how, like when you see them, are you inspired? And so we judge, we have comparisons. We judge. Not all tribes are the same. None of them are the same. Like I was getting food at the restaurant or whatever, and I turned, and this guy and girl are walking in. Good looking guy, good looking girl. He's holding her hand. He's walking in front of her. I see, so they're walking in, and the girl is on the near side to me, and the guy's on the other side. They're walking this way. And I feel the urge, as most guys would do this, to walk out next to the girl, crossing paths with the girl. A chance to get close to a pretty girl, to exchange a smell, maybe even exchange eyes a little bit, maybe even brush against her. All these things that I don't need her touch, but I know that she'll be more comfortable and familiar with me if I ever meet her outside of that hand-holding relationship. If there's something that can be memorable, if I just put on my cologne and I'm wearing a great shirt and I have a great smile, we make a little eye contact, we brush a little bit. The next time we see each other, she may not even remember me, but her body will. It's 11. Okay, guys, we're starting again. I didn't realize I was talking so long. So join the gathering, imcbase1.com. I've been talking forever. imcbase1.com. Anyway, to finish the story, I moved over to the other side, so I was on the guy's side as he walked past. It's not something I would normally do, but I respected their dynamic because I appreciate seeing a guy lead a girl. I registered that he registered that I went out of my way to go on the guy's side, because nobody does that. Now, to his fault, he should have moved the girl to the other side, because you can't expect a guy to do that. But I just instant read of the situation, that's not what was available. So I need to go to the gathering. So join dragonslayers.rastapar.com. Join the Beast Gathering, is called Gateless Gate. That's imcbase1.com. Join the Silent Flute. That's at ninthlimb.com. And of course, leave a review for this podcast episode if you liked it. It's on all the podcast apps. And I'll see you next time. Namaste. You're welcome.